Hey everyone, I'm back now that we have more confidence about our next storm. I've been keeping an eye on this system for a while now, and I think we're on the verge of something big, a major winter storm that's brewing out there. We finally got enough data to start breaking it down. So this is the beginning of our forecast process for this event. Now, whenever we're tracking a potential storm a week out, the best place to start is at the top. Weather starts in the upper levels of the atmosphere and everything from there works its way down to the surface. The closer we get to the surface, the harder it gets to predict specific impacts. That's why we're kicking things off by taking a closer look at the upper level winds, which are already showing some fascinating developments. Let's start with what's happening right now. We've still got cold air funneling down from Canada into the eastern US, but there's going to be a brief break in that pattern. And I'll explain more about that in a second. Meanwhile, those strong Santa Ana winds that have been tearing across the Sierras into California's valleys are finally letting up. That's a huge relief because those winds have been a major fire risk. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button like this video and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Here's what's really interesting. As we move toward Thursday and Friday, we're going to see a shift. Southerly and southwesterly flow is going to move into California, which will end the dangerous offshore winds. This is great news for California because it means we can start worrying a little less about fires, at least for now. But now let's zoom out and talk about what's coming for the rest of the country. Notice this little buckle in the jet stream. It's allowing some warmer air to push into the central and eastern US. This will bring a temporary relief from the cold. It's not going to feel hot or even truly warm, but temperatures will climb slightly above average for a couple of days. For those of you in Chicago, Houston, or the Ohio Valley, get ready for this break over the weekend. East coasters, especially in the Northeast, will feel it Saturday and Sunday too. We're talking about temperatures that are 10 to 15 degrees above normal, which will feel nice compared to what we've been dealing with. And this is a big, but don't get used to it. Things are about to flip quickly. By Saturday, the major Arctic blast we've been tracking will already be charging down into the northern US, bringing temperatures much, much colder than average. Let me give you a sense of how extreme this is going to be. On Saturday, places like Montana, North Dakota, and Minnesota will see lows in the 20s. Wind chills could drop to 30 or 40 in some areas. This bitter cold will keep moving south, hitting states like Colorado, the Texas Panhandle, and Oklahoma. This could easily be the coldest air of the season for many areas. If you're in the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, or even parts of southern Texas, buckle up. Houston and Austin, you're not out of the woods either. This Arctic blast is coming for you early next week, and it's going to stick around for a while. So what does this mean for storm systems? First, we've got a Clipper system dropping out of Canada and moving through Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec. This will bring lake effect and lake enhanced snow to the Great Lakes. At the same time, we've got a big plum of moisture coming up from Mexico, and it's going to interact with that cold air. This will create a widespread storm from Friday into Saturday. Louisiana and Mississippi will see thunderstorms, not severe, but still with heavy rain. Up north, we could see snow in Michigan, New York, and parts of New England, including Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. For the southeast, heavy rain could cause flash flooding, especially in Georgia as the system moves through. But here's the real headline. The Arctic outbreak that follows is going to set the stage for a massive winter storm next week. Now, let's talk specifics about this winter storm because it's already making waves in the models. We're seeing signals for snow in places like Texas, Louisiana, and even along the Gulf Coast. Yes, you heard me right. Snow near Galveston Beach, possibly in New Orleans, and maybe even Mobile, Alabama. Some models are showing snow out over the Gulf of Mexico, which is wild. When the ensemble models average out snow this far south, you know it's serious. That's why I feel confident enough to talk about this, even though we're still about 7-8 days out. I can't tell you exactly who will see what just yet. It's too early for that, but the chance for wintry weather, including snow, sleet, or freezing rain, is definitely on the table for the southern states. The latest European models are showing a 20-30 chance of at least 3 inches of snow in parts of eastern Texas and the Carolinas by January 23rd. The Weather Prediction Center is also highlighting potential winter precipitation in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and beyond. So what's certain, this Arctic outbreak is happening, and it's going to be intense. What's less certain is how the Gulf moisture will interact with the cold air, determining who gets snow, ice, or rain. And we'll be honing in on those details over the next few days. The snowpack right now is sitting further north. And yesterday, I mentioned that while I look at the models, I don't rely solely on them. Models are just one piece of the puzzle. I also factor in what's happening in the atmosphere, and that gives us a clearer picture. Yesterday, some models are showing snow extending deep into the southern United States, but I was skeptical about how far south it would actually go. Now, the models seem to be aligning more with that thinking, pulling back a bit on those southern snow projections. Let's fast forward to next Friday, about a week from now. Yes, there is still a chance of snow reaching some of the southern states, but it's not as widespread or as far south as what we saw in earlier model runs. Instead, we're looking at potential snow in places like Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, northern Georgia, and parts of the Carolinas. Yesterday, if you caught the video, I talked about how the models were showing snow even further south into areas like Texas. While that's not impossible, I noted it seemed more likely for the snow line to stay further north. And sure enough, the latest data is leaning in that direction. So what's driving all of this? Let's zoom out and talk systems. Right now, we're tracking two major energy systems. One is coming in from the Pacific, bringing moisture across the southern U.S. and the Caribbean, while the other is diving south from Canada. These two systems will interact, and that's going to bring us our first front of the weekend. This front will bring rain to many areas with snow on the colder northern side. Looking ahead, the pattern in the southern U.S. is staying very active. It's almost like an El Niño pattern with storm systems just lining up one after another coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. And this means that over the next several weeks, we'll see frequent bouts of rain and storms across the southern states and the northern Caribbean. Let's talk Arctic air. Right now, the coldest air is locked up over Canada, but as we head into early next week, it's going to push south. This will bring some of the coldest temperatures we've seen so far this winter to parts of the northern and central U.S. However, it won't extend quite as far south as some earlier model runs suggested. That's another point I emphasized yesterday. The models were overestimating how far south the Arctic air would reach, and now they're starting to pull back on that idea. Shifting our focus to the Caribbean, we've got a front draped across the northern regions right now. If you're in spots like Cuba or Jamaica, you may have already noticed some cooler mornings, and that trend will continue into next week as the front pushes further south. Along with the cooler weather, we'll see some rain showers, especially in the northern Caribbean, but totals are expected to remain relatively low. By Tuesday, the front is expected to reach the northern Bahamas and Cuba, with rain continuing to build near the Gulf of Mexico. This pattern of frequent fronts and rain systems is going to stick around, so expect an active weather setup for the foreseeable future. Now let's check on Canada. The Avalon Peninsula has seen some snow showers over the past day or so, and as we move toward the weekend, we'll see that activity continue. By Sunday, cold air could catch up with rain in Newfoundland, potentially bringing a mix of rain and snow. Bermuda, meanwhile, will stay in the path of these systems, so expect periods of rain and choppy seas through next week. Speaking of seas, let's talk about what's happening in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. As the first front arrives this weekend, we'll see waves start to build. By Sunday and into early next week, seas in the Gulf could reach 2 to 3 meters, about 7 to 9 feet in some spots. The Atlantic waters will also see increased wave heights. So if you're out on the water, keep that in mind. Yeah, let's drill down to rain chances across the Caribbean. Jamaica is looking mostly dry with just a 20 chance of a shower here or there. Trinidad and Tobago have higher rain chances, around 50 today and 40 heading into the weekend. For the Leeward and Windward Islands, including places like St. Lucia, Dominica, and Barbados, expect hit or miss showers over the next few days, but totals should remain relatively low. Central America also stays relatively dry, with Guatemala and El Salvador seeing minimal rain chances. However, Panama and Costa Rica could see rain chances increase slightly as we move into the weekend. Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, including Cancun, might see an isolated shower or two, but overall, it's a low chance. Finally, let's look at the bigger picture. Over the next week, we're tracking two major winter storms. The first is arriving this weekend, and the second one, which could bring snow a bit further south, will develop next week. This second storm will also bring more Arctic air, but again, it's not expected to push as far south as earlier models suggested. I'll be watching these systems closely and keeping you updated as things evolve. If you're enjoying these updates, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my forecasts. Thanks for spending some time with me today. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.